Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Piyush Patel, and I'm a Senior Program Manager for Human Society International India.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Vrushti Mawani, and I am also Senior Program Manager at HSI India. I look after the community engagement work in particular.
So today we are going to talk about integrated ABC program we run in India and how we are engaging with different communities to reduce the human-dog conflict in urban India. So to begin with, let's look at how this animal birth control program typically happens in India. So typically when we think about high volume sterilization or spay-neuter program, we think of managing and controlling dog population by doing surgeries. However, this conventional approach fails for several reasons, including suboptimal infrastructure, data management, and inavailability of resources. So the management of dog is so much more than just doing surgery. It requires a comprehensive approach, one that involves much more than just picking up a dog, sterilizing dog, and putting them back. So let's look into detail at some everyday challenges that this conventional ABC program faces. So along with all the animal welfare organizations and government agencies, these dog lovers and community dog feeders, also the dog haters, have a great influence on program outcomes. They are also an important stakeholder of the program. And this program face a lot of challenges from these groups.
Another challenge is the disconnection of conventional ABC programs from human behavior. So conventionally, animal birth control is often regarded in and of itself as this magic bullet to reduce human-dog conflict. However, we know that while human-dog conflict is certainly shaped by dog population densities, it has as much, if not more, to do with human behavior. So essentially, with conventional ABC programs being disconnected from human behavior dynamics and from how human behavior shapes human-dog conflict, ABC alone can achieve only so much.
Also, the third reason is the lack of sustainability. So in India, these governments pay for the spay neuter programs. So all of these sterilization programs are funded by government. Then they don't do it by themselves, but they appoint animal welfare organizations or the NGOs to run the high volume spay neuter program. These programs requires long-term intervention and consistent effort to see the results. But unfortunately, most of these programs don't survive for a long, and many of them die even before they reach the peak or achieve the 50% of the sterilization coverage. The next important challenge is the relationship between communities and animal welfare organizations. So every city has multiple organizations working for the street dog welfare. It could be rescue, emergency treatment, shelter, or sterilization. And their path crosses on several occasions. So their relationship with each other, it could be destructive, it could be constructive, affect the program outcomes as well. In India, these relationships are often strained, which is a challenge for effective implementation of such programs.
Media portrayals highlighting instances of human-dog conflict in isolation and criminalizing dogs are yet another challenge to effective ABC implementation in India. So reports by electronic and print media on human-dog conflict often look only at instances of conflict in isolation, which ends up criminalizing dogs. Such reports are also accompanied by questions on the effectiveness and relevance of animal birth control programs in India. And these questions, of course, are premised in the conception that animal birth control alone should resolve human-dog conflict, which doesn't happen. So this then leads to suggestions that ABC programs be done away with entirely. And a lot of this has to do with media portrayals. Finally, echoing its disconnect with human behavior, conventional animal birth control programs are just as disconnected from systemic processes accompanying urbanization and reproducing human-dog conflict. This includes processes such as the loss of open or green spaces, increased construction densities, greater traffic, poorer access to water sources, and so on.
So let's quickly go through one by one. In India, we have dog lovers, people who care about dogs and provide for as much as they can. Sometimes it's an organized group of people, or it might be an individual taking care of dogs with whatever capacity they have. According to HSI India's surveys, across India, between 58 to 95% of household feed the street dogs, with frequency ranging from daily to maybe once a month. So this group wants to make sure that these dogs are safe and released back safely after the surgery. But because of their past experiences where the dogs were relocated or had undergone a bad surgery, they don't trust the programs. And now with social media, one such bad incident damages the reputation of all the ABC programs. So there is always a resistance from the dog lovers, and it requires a lot of convincing to get these dogs sterilized. And then there is other group of people who hate dogs or can't tolerate the dogs because of their experiences of dog bites, chasing, or myths about rabies. These people will happily let you get the dogs for the surgery, but they won't let you release the dogs back. Which leads to relocation and conflict. Typically, and also our surveys and ground experience shows that every community will have 20% dog lovers, 20% dog haters, and 60% are the fence sitters. And these people are tend to be turncoats. These 60% people would keep on changing their perception depending on the situation. So if the dog lovers from the community are more vocal or influential, they will tilt towards that group. And if any bad incidents of dog biting or chasing or property damage happens, they will change their opinion towards dogs, which is negative. So conformity, socialization, peer pressure, and leadership plays an important role to form the opinion of these different groups.
As well, like mentioned earlier, we know that human-dog conflict is shaped as much by dog population densities as it is by human behavior. So the way humans, all of us, use spaces that we cohabit with community dogs determines the extent of interface between dogs and humans, which in turn affects and shapes human-dog conflict. Some examples of how human behavior affects human-dog conflict include whether communities are sensitive to a female dog being protective of her pups, folks throwing things at street dogs, beating them, teasing them, scaring them, or chasing them away, or even perhaps getting too close to street dogs, assuming that they will be friendly. In each of these instances, human behavior determines whether human-dog conflict takes place or not, as well as how it plays out. Conventional animal birth control programs in India, however, are disconnected from this reality, since they focus solely on sterilizing and vaccinating. And when there isn't an increase, when there isn't a decrease in human-dog conflict in areas where these conventional programs are run, the effectiveness of animal birth control programs comes under question.
Yeah, so next comes the sustainability. We know that even after we achieve 80 or 90% sterilization, we need to keep doing some numbers of surgery to maintain it. Otherwise, the add-on population will lower the overall coverage and population will bounce back eventually. In India, the administration, the funding agency, the government partners always aims to achieve 80% sterilization, and then they have to shut down the program because finding and locating unsterilized dogs are remaining 20% unsterilized dogs are very resource oriented, and it requires very highly skilled catching methods. So and sometimes a proper collaboration with community to catch those few unsterilized dogs. So it goes into this cycle. So in every 3-4 years, the dog population will bounce back after they shut down the program, and then the city corporation will again start the spay neuter program. And also more often, the bureaucracy and the lack of willingness of the administration interrupt the program so often that half of such programs dies in initial 2 to 3 years. And next comes the community and the animal welfare organizations, their relationship and their dynamics. So more often the executing agency will have untrained, unskilled veterinarians and vet technicians and dog catchers. Also with poor infrastructures, which result into compromised welfare practices. So high mortality rate and post-operative complication creates a lot of distress in the dog lovers community. In large cities, the cities are divided and multiple organizations are given different words for the faster results. But this also creates a lot of commotion. Every organization has different approaches, and if especially if there is one organization who doesn't follow the ethical practice or have a compromised welfare practice, then the other performing organizations are also seen in the same light.
Also, like mentioned earlier, mainstream media reports on human-dog conflict focus predominantly on dog bite cases, typically focusing on the biting instance in isolation without inquiring into the context or history leading up to the bite. And while mainstream media not being sensitized to animal welfare is a major reason for such lopsided reporting, the consequence of such reporting is that dogs are criminalized by mainstream media, as the image here illustrates. Equally, the reality is that stories of dog bites attract far more reader attention than positive stories of accomplishment do. Furthermore, poor quality spay-neuter programs reported by mainstream media set the tone for all spay-neuter programs. Together, the way animal birth control is reported by mainstream media becomes a challenge for continuing effective animal birth control in India. As well, large Indian cities are home to between 7 to 15 million people and around 70 to 80,000 street dogs. Now, the speed at which Indian cities have grown has meant that urbanization processes affect not only human lives, but they also affect all non-human animal lives. Rapid construction, not attentive to the needs of animals that live on urban India's streets, has meant, for instance, that there are fewer sidewalks and green spaces where street dogs can seek shade and refuge like they used to. There are denser traffic flows which subject street dogs to more accidents and injuries. And issues like these, in turn, reproduce human-dog conflict. Conventional ABC programs, however, are completely disconnected with these realities of how human-dog conflict is entangled with wider urbanization-related anthropocentric issues. And without addressing these systemic issues, human-dog conflict cannot be resolved.
So after identifying all these gaps, we have streamlined the processes and which address each of these issues.
The need for integrated ABC then is premised in the recognition of the challenges described above. Based on our experience with these challenges, our rationale for engaging communities is comprised of the following 6 drivers.
So first and foremost important is how do we approach the communities? One of the most important aspect of this is the diversity and specific need of the each group. One size doesn't fit for all. So developing the resources and customized approach for diverse group of communities is very important. The same talking points with the same education material will not interest every community. So based on their perception, experiences, and background, we do course correction and sensitize them about all the welfare parameters. For example, we conduct workshops on benefits of spay neuter, understanding of dog behavior, or rabies awareness. And also we talk a lot about peaceful coexistence with street dogs.
So a key component of our community engagement strategy then is refocusing attention on human behavior change. In all activities where we engage communities, we emphasize on the fact that human-dog conflict is shaped as much by human behavior as it is by dog populations, thereby highlighting that human communities themselves have the agency to foster a more peaceful coexistence with street dogs. To do this, we work on raising awareness in communities and stakeholders on dog behavior, on responsible feeding, on responsible pet ownership, on legal stipulations protecting the rights of street dogs, and so on.
And the next focus area is working with the different volunteer groups and local organizations for sustainability. We plan our exit very early, and the moment we achieve 75% sterilization coverage, we are looking for other animal welfare groups or the organizations which can be handed over the program. Sometimes these groups require proper hand holding, or in some cases few trainings will be enough to get them going. So the major work has already been done by HSI. So even if they keep doing few sterilization a month, it will effectively control the dog population. And I mean, it also gives us a leverage and the access to the city where we can go back every year and carry out our surveys to see the changes happening after we left. We also share the recommendations and survey finding with government agencies as well. The next one is building trust in communities for high quality ABCs. So because of the trust deficit from dog lovers and strong resistance from dog haters, there are few areas in the city which will have a high unsterilized dogs left behind, and it will bring down the overall coverage percentage. So to address this issue, we reach out to the communities and carry out meetings to understand their expectations, and also we explain our processes.
Yeah. And to engage communities via media, we work to counterbalance the overwhelmingly negative dog bite focused mainstream media reports. And to do this, we work on highlighting cases of peaceful human-dog coexistence and transformative communities, as well as we work on building nuance into the potentials and pitfalls of ABC programs. And finally, to add the necessary complexity to human-dog conflict dynamics, we make visible to audiences and stakeholders the many urbanization-related processes such as garbage management or traffic flows that reproduce human-dog conflict. Based on this rationale, we carry out integrated animal birth control programs by employing the following methods to engage communities. First, we conduct surveys, which are called CAP surveys or knowledge attitude practice surveys. These surveys are carried out periodically to identify the core issues undergirding human-dog conflict or complaints against dogs in any neighborhood. And based on our findings from these surveys, we devise a customized plan of community engagement action for that neighborhood. The second activity is community meetings. So through these meetings, we build rapport and trust with residents, with community feeders, with dog lovers, dog haters, where we lay out for them the benefits of animal birth control and anti-rabies vaccinations, the need to be rabies aware, the need to be dog behavior savvy, and we explain to them the legal stipulations protecting the rights of street dogs. We then also get into more focused workshops. So for instance, dog behavior workshops, which are conducted particularly for residents who complain about behaviors of street dogs, including biting, chasing, barking, etc. Through these workshops, we explain to participants how to read dog behavior, how dogs might read our behavior, how to behave and stay safe around community dogs, and all of this is geared to making our participants reflect on and change their own behaviors that might be shaping human-dog conflict in their neighborhoods. We also conduct workshops emphasizing rabies awareness, which are especially relevant for slum areas or dense neighborhoods where there might be low awareness levels as well as high interface between street dogs and humans. And we also conduct workshops emphasizing the laws protecting street dog welfare, which might be particularly relevant for high-income neighborhoods, as well as for areas where people are less tolerant towards dogs and keep asking for dogs to be relocated.
Okay. So we also engage with the community with different perceptions. So for the people who care about the street dogs and worry about the consequences of the surgery, to build the trust, we invite them to our facility to experience the entire procedure. We show them the protocol, how we keep the dogs in the kennel, and we also explain them how we use the database and mobile app to bring the transparency to the program. We also connect and introduce them to the other organizations we are working with, like different shelters, rescues, and organizations who are providing emergency care. So basically, that this is to for their interest. I mean, and so that they are better served in terms of their need for the treatments or for the adoption of the dogs. The next group, the dog haters, are little tricky to manage, and our initial expectation from this group is that they leave the dogs alone and do not overreact to one bad incidence of human dog conflict. So the conversation start with law and legislation around animal welfare, and we make it a point that relocation and killing of the street dog is illegal and it's a punishable offense. That brings them to negotiation to negotiate other options, like we'll sterilize and vaccinate these dogs, and we'll set up a designated feeding and watering spots to reduce human dog interface and hence the conflict. And next comes the how do we collaborate with local animal welfare organization and our government partner. These are very important stakeholders of the program. So collaborating with other organization is very helpful. Before we start any new program, we prepare a directory of all the resources available in the city. Basically, it is a list of all the other organizations, government agencies, and volunteers with information on how, what do they do, what kind of services they provide, what are their working hours, and what are the point of contact. This helps us collaborate more efficiently and fill the gaps for effective outcomes. For city administrations, we volunteer to help them with the complaint redressal. So all the biting, chasing, or human dog conflicts related complaints comes to us, which provide us a constant feedback about our work and help us understand the core issues these communities are facing. We often do course correction and change our strategy based on the feedback we receive after attending these complaints. We also work closely with policy making department of governments, and we advise them on policies they might be formulating on eradication of rabies, pet dog registration, responsible pet ownership, or expanding the scope of the program to other cities.
In terms of media, we focus on increasing and strengthening our social media outreach via diverse media platforms including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on, as well as print and digital news platforms, locally as well as nationally. Our objective through these activities is to ensure that our messaging reaches diverse audiences. And through this messaging, we work to respond productively to negative stories criminalizing dogs, ensuring care with our framing and messaging so as to not blame critics, but rather to highlight ways for positive change. We also work on proactively disseminating stories from the ground of how high quality integrated spay neuter programs involving active community engagement positively impacts dogs and human lives alike. To do so, we consciously shift away from using media only at times of crisis response, and we work towards celebrating milestones as well as making visible behind the scenes work that drives street dog welfare programs. And that's our approach to integrated animal birth control, engaging communities to reduce human-dog conflict. We look forward to your thoughts and questions. Thank you.